Hi, everybody. We are Mike and Brenda Baker, and today, on this episode, we are going to talk about the top 3 ways to lower the risk of parental alienation. And so in this video, we're going to teach you some of the things that we found to be really helpful on, so that you're not alienated as a parent and your child in their adult years does not go no contact.
Okay, so I just want to do a caveat here before we actually get into these. There's a reason we titled this the way we did, and we went back and forth on how to do it. I didn't want to give you guys any unreal expectations. What do I mean by that? I mean that we wanted to help you lower the risk. We're not going to give you any guarantees that this is not going to happen to you. No contact has become amazingly popular. Let's just say that. Well, my dad, he took my donuts away when I was 8 years old, and so I went no contact. Now, you might not find that funny because you went no contact. And let me remind any of you who have watched our videos, you know that we have 2 sons that went no contact with us as well.
Well, one. The other one.
Anyway, the point is we have no contact with those sons. One went full no contact, and the other was indeed more of a mutual and no contact. But the point is there's no guarantees. No guarantees. This can happen to anybody. You can do all the things right, but you need to remember that the world is constantly trying to tear you apart. And the government isn't doing you any favors either.
No.
Okay, so as we get into this, please remember that the right thing to do is still the right thing to do. Don't do it for the payout. Do it because that's what God wants you to do, because that's who you are inside. Kind, loving, and solid. Anyway, let's get into the first one. Okay, so let's talk about how to start new traditions and keep old ones. We've noticed with a lot of families, you put a new family together, and of course the first thing you want to do is establish your family identity, which means you want to start new family traditions, right? That's great, but now you've got kids from a prior family, you've got kids from 2 prior families, maybe you even have a mix of kids that have other families and other families, okay? Blended doesn't just mean 1 family, 2 families. Your spouse could have blended kids from another family before you even. So the point is this. Old traditions are still very important to the kids, and you need to let go in your head to the fact that tradition happened with your ex-spouse. Let it go. Because in your kid's head, that happened with the other parent. Okay? They don't have any ex in their head. They have mom and dad. That's it. That's all that's there. So it's very important to remember that you should not be afraid to bring some of those old, not all of them, but bring some of those more important old traditions into the new family so that the kid has something then to share with the family, as well as including them in decisions to make new traditions within that family unity group.
Now, I'm not disagreeing, okay? But there were no traditions from my former marriage that I wanted to bring into our marriage. I wanted to leave all that crap behind because it was, there was just nothing positive that I wanted to move forward. So if that's the case, that's okay too. We're just saying that the kids, especially when the kids are, 8, 9, 10 and up, they're really going to be affected if you always used to do it this way and now all of a sudden you're doing it this way. For instance, if you've always opened presents on Christmas Eve and now you're going to do it on Christmas Day, that's going to mess with the kids a little bit. Now, it could be that now you're going to share your kids and so they're not always going to be with you. That's different, okay? That's not what we're talking about here. But traditions as a family are so important. So say you had something that a story or something that you always read before somebody's birthday, or I'm just making something up at this point, but just to give an example, continue that tradition if that's something that you enjoy and they enjoy and it's mutual, okay? Teach it to your new family. And that's okay. if you have something surrounding Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter, you know, talk it over with your family. Have a family meeting, as we've always, you know, maybe we haven't talked about this on the videos, but we always did family meetings to discuss what we wanted to do, what wasn't working, what was working, encouragement. If people in the family were having troubles with each other, we'd bring those up in a family format, kind of to help get everybody on the same page, but also to, you know,
open communication.
Yeah, and help the people that were struggling, because that is gonna happen here and there. When you're meshing two families together, that sort of thing is gonna happen. And so, to me, that was one of the new traditions that we started, was the family meetings. In my family, and I would say also in Mike's family, we didn't do a ton of talking about problems.
It was was talking in my family, but it wasn't talking.
Well, yelling isn't talking.
It's communication.
But anyway, so that was a new tradition that we started together. And it turned out to be a really great way for people to air their problems and get help, rather than them just constantly bumping heads. We had two sons that shared a bedroom. When one was there, you know, it didn't go well. Okay, and there was a lot of the times that the family meetings were taken up trying to help those two to learn how to coexist without killing each other. Not that they, you know, fought a lot, excuse me, but it was just something that we established and whatever. So, anything else?
No, not on that topic.
Okay.
Which brings us into number 2. Very important. Be who you say you are. Okay? So when it comes to parental alienation, adults especially, are terrified of potential parental alienation. We've met so many parents whose kids went no contact with them, which is all alienation is. Yeah. Okay, we've rarely have I met actually, well, not rarely, I shouldn't say, not as often have I met a kid whose parent went no contact. I usually have met more parents whose kids went no contact, and all for various reasons. We're not going into that, but the point is be who you say you're going to be. Okay, if you say that communication is important and we need to show it, then be a communicator. If you say it is important for us to help others less fortunate than ourselves, then be the first one to lead the charge and volunteer to help people who are less fortunate than yourself. Excuse me. If you say that you should love your spouse no matter what, then be the spouse that does that. Lead by example. Everything you see. Now, I've brought this up before. I'm going to bring it up again. When I deployed to Iraq, I deployed twice. We always had twofers. And what's a twofer, you say? If you've watched this, you know what a twofer is. But if you're new here, let me explain it really quick. A twofer is where you get 2 guys for the price of 1. Which means that in front of the spouse back home, they are one way. And then when deployed, they are somebody else. So you get 2 different people for the price of 1. You cannot afford to do that within your household.
And I would say that if you're a churchgoer, the same is the case. You know, I've heard a lot of people that grew up in different churches, and the parents would scream and holler at each other and the kids all the way to church. And then when they got to church, they were all required to have a smiley face when they went in. Mm-hmm. And that never works. Like, there's going to be some problems in your blended family, and that's okay. Be honest about those things. But if you're going to say that you're a Christian, act like it. Don't just be it when you're at the church building. Be it all the time. Sure, you're going to slip up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make the wrong decisions sometimes. Make those things less than. Make sure that you're getting yourself in the Word so that you can, you know, really help yourself to do better in that area. So
hypocrisy is not just making a mistake. Hypocrisy is when you are consistently one way and you tell them to be the other. You know, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
And so what you may not even realize you're doing, and I would highly encourage you to step up and start noticing the things that you're doing. Because if they're going to go no contact with you, remember what I said, the right thing to do is still the right thing to do. Make sure that it's not because you didn't do what you said you do, and it's not because you aren't who you said you'd be. Which brings us into number 3, which is always a hot one. Good.
Yeah, and so in this one, it's really important to mind your tongue. The tongue is really where everything, the wheels come off, as they say. Because really, if you are the type of person that speaks before you think, or you say things out of anger, and those sorts of things, your stepkids will never have a reason to trust you. Okay? Now, I would say that stepkids do try to find ways and reasons why they shouldn't listen to you / trust you. Some of that could be from the other parent that doesn't live at your house. And so, can you control those things?
No. Okay, look. In James 1, verse 26, it says, "If anyone thinks himself to be religious and yet does not bridle his own tongue, but deceives his own heart, this man's religion is worthless." So, you cannot control what comes out of other people's mouths, but you can absolutely control what comes out of yours. Now, to a degree, this is somewhat similar to, it's part of be who you say you are, but I don't think that enough parents and both bio parents and step parents understand how destructive their tongues are. Yeah. My ex consistently called my wife the step monster. Consistently. Not a little while, not a couple weeks, not a couple months, years. Literally years. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke and say that I never said anything negative about my ex, because I did.
Yeah.
But what I can say is I did actively really try to hold my tongue when it came to things like that, especially when the boys were asking very probing questions. There were times when it was like, buddy, I'm sorry, but you don't need to worry about that right now. Yeah. Okay? Did I slip up from time to time? Absolutely I did. But words matter. Mind your tongue. You do not need to badmouth the ex. You don't need to badmouth your current spouse. You don't need to badmouth the neighbors. You need to mind your tongue to teach your kids that words matter, because words, a guy we know, Myron Golden, he says, every word is a seed. Yeah. And another guy I know, who I had a lot of respect for once upon a time, said, you never know where you've planted a tree and where you've planted a seed until there's a tree standing there. And then you're either going to be really happy with how it came out, or you're going to wonder how the heck that ever got there. And it's going to be because you planted it.
Yeah, and I would say in this area, this is an area that I really struggled with personally. And I feel that Mike did a much better job in this specific area of minding the tongue than I did. I would say that, some of it has to do with trauma, and some of it has to do with, just different things that I didn't know I hadn't dealt with, that I absolutely hadn't. It had nothing to do with the kids, but his ex really triggered me. And she tried to. It was her goal in life to get us as triggered as possible so that we would say and do things that weren't necessarily a good representation of ourselves. So I would say that this is probably one of the reasons that one of our sons went no contact. Because, I always fought battles with words, and that's always been a struggle for myself. And I would say that I'm much better now, but I still have those times where I have to really be careful of my triggers. So if you're someone who has had some deep-seated anger or resentment or whatever toward your parents or someone else, it's very, very important for you to do what you got to do to get the help you need to get so you can get those things out. Mike always says, better out than in, right? And my life coach, in her own way, did say that as well. And I've always struggled with stuffing things rather than talking about them. And so, this is not something I've done a great job with.
So, yet another caveat. Now that we're saying if you've got something going on, there are many, many different kinds of help. Yeah. All right. Now, we said it before. I'm going to say it again right now. We are not counselors. I haven't gone to college for anything. Okay. But what we do have is almost 30 years of marital I'm not going to say bliss, because a good marriage takes so much hard work. To say bliss anymore would insinuate there's no work there, that it just happens. And it doesn't, all right? It's hard work. It is blood, sweat, and tears, and 120% worth it. But I digress. So here's the point. If you struggle with talking to people, but you are a churchgoer, I would suggest go to the elders in your church, go to the preacher, and you don't necessarily have to talk to them. See if they know somebody who you could talk to. Is there another blended family? Because it's important that you talk to people who have rowed the same boat that you have, okay? Is there someone with a blended family who has struggled but seems to be getting along that I could talk to? I'm not going to lie. I don't like counselors and psychiatrists, but I'm not going to tell you to not go to one. I won't go to one, but I'm not going to tell you not to. Perhaps you know a counselor. Perhaps you know a psychiatrist. Perhaps you know a psychoanalyst. I'm not even sure all the names for them anymore. That you trust, that you can go to, but always asking the question, have you dealt with blended families? Okay? You don't hire a plumber to bake a cake.
Are you saying has dealt with, or are you meaning someone who's actually lived in a blended family?
Well, preference would be to get a counselor who's actually part of a blended family themselves, who has had successes. The other thing you could do is you can reach out to us. You can reach out to other influencers like us. We're not going to sit here and tell you that we have all the answers. There's a bunch of different influencers out there who probably have really good content. I'm not familiar with all of it, but I'm sure it's fine. Find your answer. But most of all, pray. Pray about it. Look for your answer. The answers are there.
Yeah. And so with that being said, I think another thing that we need to talk about is you can't control what the other household is saying. Mm-hmm. And so this was kind of brought up, but I really feel like it needs to be brought up again in the fact that you cannot plan for or mitigate the issues that will come from the other household saying negative things or untrue things or half-true things or whatever, okay? That is not something that you can personally control, so don't even try. Honestly, if somebody would have told me that, I think I would have had a better handle on what does that look like? Because I'm one of those people, I can hear something, but what does that have to do with me? And so what I am hoping you're going to take from this is control the things yourself that you can. You can't control, human nature is still human nature. You can't control what the kids are going to do as they get older. Mm-hmm. They're going to listen to whoever they want. It is our firm stand for our family, for our kids, and hopefully for our grandkids, that college is not important because of too many extra things that are taught in college. That's just an example for us. Am I saying that you shouldn't go to college? Absolutely not. But I'm just saying these are things that are really, really important to us because we believe that it's not going to be positive. It's not going to have positive results. If you make a whole lot of money, but you lose your family in the mix, then it's not worth it. So that's our firm stand, okay? More and more, though, if you can get yourself to the point where you are, number one, being who you say you are, and number two, not using words to attack someone else in any situation, it's really, really important to get to that place as quickly as possible because your life is going to be so much more peaceful. Would you agree with that? Mm-hmm. Anything else? Mm-mm. Okay, so with that, we thank you so very much for being here with us today. We ask you to leave any questions or comments down below, and we will see you again soon on the next one. Until then, we'll see you later. Bye.